In this week's drive, we roll out a new car, drop off a cliff, balance on a box, and spin on the ice. All this and more in this week's Drive. The British-American Racing Formula One team launched their Challenger for the 2003 season in Barcelona. The team's new driver, Englishman Jenson Button, who will partner ex-Formula One world champion Jacques Villeneuve, was also introduced at the ceremony. Button previously drove for Benetton Renault and Williams BMW. The French-Canadian was asked how he felt about his new teammate.
He's a nice guy, we get along, so it should be easy to work together, but he still hasn't proven how good he is on the racetrack. He proved to be good against Ralph, but then his 2 years at the last team he was with weren't very good. I think the better working environment here, surrounded by British people, should allow him to show his full potential. And you know, the quicker the teammate, normally the better it is, because we can then both work on the car.
After a disappointing season with Benetton, which became Renault, Button bounced back in 2002 to finish 7th in the Drivers' Championship. This year, there was no shortage of offers for the young Englishman's talents.
I chose BAR because obviously Formula One is not just a one-year deal, it's looking into the future. And I think BAR Honda is the best possible team for me for a long-term plan, and it looks very, very exciting for all of us.
Button has experience which will be vital for the team. Toyota launched their new car at the Paul Ricard circuit in southern France and introduced the latest Brazilian recruit to the Formula One World Championship. 29-year-old Cristiano Da Mata comes with the right credentials: the American Kart Series Championship in a Toyota-powered Newman-Haas car. Toyota's 2002 season brought a dismal return of just 2 points, but Da Mata and Frenchman Olivier Panis have replaced Alan McNish and Mika Salo for this year. How does Da Mata see the difference between kart and Formula One?
Well, after kart racing, how will I adapt to Formula One? Well, in some areas, it's a little bit more complicated than the others. I think the car's quite different to drive, and I think that's the part that's going to take me the longest time. The other things that are quite different are the technology, the amount of people I'm working with, and it all coming into play quicker than I expected. I think it's just a matter of time, so I just need a little bit more time, and I think for the car it's the same. We just need more time, especially with the grooved tyres and the weight of the car. It's quite different to where I was coming from, so it's a matter of now doing some mileage. This I will now get a lot of.
Brazil has produced world champions like Emerson Fittipaldi, Nelson Piquet and Ayrton Senna, who shared 8 world titles between them. Da Mata is the latest Brazilian contender.
Well, my point of view on what is more exciting to watch, I think people have different tastes. You know, you go to Brazil, for example, everybody loves to watch Formula One. You go to America, everybody loves to watch NASCAR. A lot of people like to watch kart. So I think depends a lot on everybody's taste. Some people like more technology, some people like more close racing, some people like more bumping and crashing, so it depends on what you like. I like Formula One. I like kart a lot too, but I respect everybody's taste, so.
The new Toyota is lighter and more aerodynamic than last year's model. Another Brazilian, Ricardo Zonta, is the team's test driver. As a former driver with BAR and Jordan, he'll be an experienced source of input for developing the new car. Formula One's governing body, the FIA, has imposed more sweeping rule changes to liven up the sport. The FIA, stung by the inability of teams to decide anything on their own, decided to act themselves. Despite the disappearance of 2 teams last year, nothing has been done to save money. Last October, the teams rejected all the FIA's cost-saving proposals. So the FIA have made tough changes.
Well, the most important elements are that we're eliminating telemetry to the car, to the pit and so on. communications of that kind with the driver and the car. We've got rid of the spare car. They won't be scrutineering a spare car. We've also brought in a provision which will stop them having any chance of making a special car for qualifying, because after qualifying it's going to go straight in the Park family. And then in the longer term, we've agreed that we're going to not only have one engine per weekend in 2004, but 2005 it'll go up to 2 weekends per engine, and 2006, in all probability, to 6 weekends per engine, which will reduce the cost of the engines dramatically.
This has been described as a crisis meeting. Do you see it that way?
Well, it wasn't so much, I don't think it was a real crisis, but the moment had come where it was necessary to do a whole lot of things, and we've now done them. And of course, probably a fundamental change as far as the watchers, spectators are concerned, is getting rid of all these things like traction control, launch control, all the driver aids, which will go definitively in 2004, and with any luck, even sooner. That's again a major step forward.
At the beginning, I believe that traction control was brought back because you couldn't police it. Has that changed?
Yes, there's been a change because there's now a rule that says that the teams have to be able to prove that their cars comply by physical inspection only. Well, that means we no longer need to look at the software of the car to see whether they've got traction control. We can just say, show us by physical means there is none. Now, at the moment, the only way anybody can think of doing that is having a standard electronic control unit. There may be other means, but at least we're able to look physically at the car, and we must then be able to tell that it's not got traction control. The onus is on the team to demonstrate that. They proposed the rule. I don't think they saw the implications at the time, and we're now making use of it.
The costs of racing for the middle-order teams has always been an issue.
Well, there was a lot of things that went on today, and I want to be calm about it because from what I heard over a very long number of hours, this is by far the most positive day in my 13 years of Grand Prix racing. It's positive for Jordan, it's very positive for the show, it's positive for our sport, and there were a lot of constructive, hard decisions, but everyone came out well intact of their credibility and their honour, and it's a great day for Jordan because with the restructuring of certain things inside the Concord Agreement and in the nature, it has helped Jordan dramatically.
For the smaller teams, for me and Eddie, it's good news, and basically there's a solidarity in there that wants to see 10 teams survive and compete and complete the season, and I think for us, for Eddie and for Formula One, it's been a very, very good day.
I think two very significant things have come out of today. The teams collectively with Bernie have come to a financial solution that secures the future of all 10 teams in the championship, which is been a concern for everyone. It's a very positive move. So there's no uncertainty over any of the teams, over 20 cars appearing on the grid from the start of the season to the finish of the season. And secondly, and probably equally as more important to many extent, is that a lot of the issues that the fans are being concerned about, the sort of traction control areas and other aspects that sort of driver aids, have been agreed to be taken off the cars, certainly by 2004, but quite likely well before that. And those are sort of, it's such a positive message that Formula One is getting its house in order and is sorting itself out.
So, no spare cars, pit-to-car radio or bi-directional telemetry, no traction control or special qualifying engines, and a standardised rear wing and braking system. World champ Michael Schumacher, on a team skiing holiday, commented on the new rules. He has mixed feelings because dropping the electronic driver aids will make the racing more exciting, but also more dangerous.
For me, I prefer the one where you have all the technical possibilities because I don't like to take compromises in the race car. I like to make a race car as fast as possible, and all the electronics have helped that. But obviously, that's the same for everyone, and if that changes, then it's again the same for everyone. I've dealt with the other system before, so I will deal with them as they come. So I don't see that I should, or any good driver should take the advantage by a big amount. The only way I could see that, and I would agree, is in the rain condition, because in the rain condition, I believe without traction control in particular, it will be very, very difficult, and you need a lot more feeling in order to be on the pace. On the same time, it will be quite a bit more dangerous, but that has been in the past the same, and we have to deal with that. So it's going to be a little bit more exciting.
Jean Todt has turned Ferrari from a loser to an all-conquering team, helped in no small part by Schumacher.
I mean, the intention to reduce cost and to improve show is very good, but we must make sure that it can happen in a smooth way, because otherwise it could have the other counter effect to cost more. And I think it's what nobody wants about that. We know that, I mean, not only Formula One, because I mean, people are too focused in our world to say Formula One has a problem. No, I mean, the world, the economy in the world is in crisis, and we have just to react in a sensible manner in front of those situations.
Schumacher expects his teammate, Rubens Barrichello, to be his biggest rival. Perhaps that's why he had to go in the back. The season starts in Melbourne in March. As the Dakar Rally heads towards Egypt, towards its finish in Sharm el-Sheikh, bike racer Jose Gomez Palas seemed overwhelmed by the size of the dunes near Siva. Even race leader Richard Sankt wasn't immune to taking a tumble. The delay allowed Cyril Dupre to make up 2 minutes. Italian Giovanni Sala woke up feeling unwell, but his mood improved by clocking the best time of the day, by just 8 seconds. But British Patsy Quick was flown to Cairo after crashing her bike. She's recovering after surgery for a ruptured spleen. Ex-Formula One driver Ukyo Katayama came to grief 100 kilometres into the stage.
So sorry for mechanics and team staff.
Back on its wheels, but effectively out of the race. Thierry Delaverne managed to come through relatively unscathed, but only after enduring a tremendously testing time in his Nissan pickup. But as others struggled, Stéphane Peterhansel steamed ahead. The Frenchman took an aggressive approach from the start, finishing over 7 minutes faster than his Mitsubishi teammate Hiroshi Masuoka. His accomplished drive now gave him an impressive 24-minute 18-second advantage at the top of the overall standings. It was a similar story in the truck section, as Vladimir Chaguin took the honours to extend his overall lead to 1 hour 6 minutes from Tomasz Tomaszek. But there was heartbreak for Gerardus de Rooij, crashing out of the race after 152 kilometres when his DAF truck was badly damaged when jumping a dune. The young Dutchman's anguish was painfully obvious, although he was otherwise unhurt. For the last long day in the desert, Fabrizio Mioni adopted a simple strategy: flat out until the finish. The Italian's tactic paid dividends with a commanding performance and a stage win to put him back in contention for overall victory. Sankt endured another difficult day, coming home second over 13 minutes behind Mioni, who closed to within 17 minutes of his overall lead.
I broke down 10 kilometers from here because I was out of fuel. One of the connections was unplugged. I lost time to put it back, but it's okay because it could have been worse.
The story of the stage belonged to former World Rally champion Ari Vatanen in his Nissan pickup. The 50-year-old Finn's appearance in the rally is just about as far removed from his day job as you can imagine. Vatanen now earns his living as a member of the European Parliament in Brussels, a post he's held since 1999. Vatanen, who last raced in the Dakar Rally in 1991, went flat out in his Nissan to thwart BMW driver Luc Alphand for a stage win. Frenchman Alphand, a champion Olympic skier, was only 1 minute 18 seconds adrift of Vatanen at the finish of the 569-kilometre stage at Dakhla in Morocco. Despite a disappointing 5th position, overall leader Stéphane Peterhansel still benefited from the day's racing. extending his overall lead over Masuoka to over 25 minutes. Of the 343 cars, motorcycles and trucks that began the event on the 1st of January in France, Fabrizio Mioni was one of only 194 competitors who lined up for the 14th stage. The Italian, winner of the Dakar for the last 2 years, needed to make up time on Sainct and Dupré. Spaniard Marc Coma also had the Frenchman in his sights as he tackled the rugged terrain outside the desert oasis of Dakhla. Coma's ride brought 3rd place on the stage. 3 minutes ahead of Coma was Cyril Dupré. Mioni, however, having been hot on the heels of Dupré, had a miserable day. The defending champion crashed his bike in the desert and discovered he damaged an oil pipe. Despite the attentions of teammate Jean Broussy and a little DIY engine repair, Mioni fell out of the top 10, losing valuable time to Dupré and Sainct. Leader Richard Sainct was unconcerned with proceedings behind him. The Frenchman cruised to a stage victory ahead of Dupré. The win increased Saint's advantage to 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Ari Vatanen and Luc Alphand had much to talk about before they raced across 274 kilometers of desert. Henri Pescarolo found that fame doesn't stop you getting stuck on the top of ridges. The 60-year-old won the Le Mans 24-hour 4 times and started in 56 Grand Prix races, but he still got stuck. Peter Hansel also found the going tough. The 6 times bike section winner is leading his first event in a car, but he finished the stage 6th, although second-place Masuoka could only manage 7th. South African rookie Geniel de Villiers mastered the conditions and cruised into Luxor in 3rd place. Leaving the Nissan in the dust was Jean-Pierre Fontenay, who took 2nd place on the stage and gained time on 2nd place Matsuoka in the overall standings. But the drive of the day was from former World Cup skier Luc Alphand. After seeing off Vatanen, the Frenchman recorded his first Dakar stage win and the first for the BMW X-Raid team, putting him into the top 10. Mioni clocked the fastest time for the 477-kilometre 15th stage at over 100 kilometres an hour. Second and third were Per Gunnar Lundmark of Sweden and Spaniard Marc Coma. Cyril Dupré, in 2nd place overall, reduced fellow KTM rider Richard Saint's overall lead to just over 10 minutes after finishing in 4th, nearly 1 minute ahead of Saint, who came 5th. Ari Vatanen won the car section in his Nissan, gaining his 3rd stage victory of the race and coming home over 6 minutes ahead of Mitsubishi's Miki Biasion. The dry, dusty but generally faster conditions were in marked contrast to the snows of his native Finland, but the former World Rally champion proved that age hasn't slowed him down or dimmed his competitive spirit. Peter Hansel cruised in 6th, 15 minutes off the pace, but close behind Masuoka to maintain a 26-minute lead overall, with just 2 stages remaining. On to the 16th stage, a 365-kilometre slog from Abu Rish to the scuba diving resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. Cyril Dupré chalked up another stage win and narrowed the gap on Saint to under 8 minutes. The bikers found some of the passes especially rugged, and several dropped their bikes on the rough ground. Saint finished 2nd, more than 2 minutes adrift, keen to stay on the bike and match his challenger's pace. Only 189 of the original 343 entrants were on the starting line for the penultimate section. 61 cars, 100 bikes and 28 trucks. Italian former rally driver Miki Biasion clocked the fastest time in the car category. Belgium's Stefan Henrard in a Volkswagen buggy finished 2nd, 4 minutes 50 seconds behind Biasion, with Jean-Pierre Fontenay 3rd in another Mitsubishi, just 10 seconds behind him. But there was bitter disappointment for race leader Stefan Peter Hansel, who destroyed the left front wheel of his Mitsubishi after hitting a rock about 300 kilometres into the stage. The mishap dropped him from 1st to 4th overall and virtually guaranteed victory to Hiroshi Masuoka. Going into the final 34-kilometre stage in Sharm el-Sheikh, Masuoka was 2 hours 20 minutes ahead of Pirazel. Russian trucker Ferdus Khabarov took his 4th straight stage win, finishing 32 minutes ahead of Brazilian André de Azevedo. Sometimes courtesy isn't always rewarded. The drive will wrap up this marathon next week. To Germany now for the 3rd round of the Indoor World Trials Championship. After losing on his home soil in England in the last round, Dougie Lamkin was determined to get his challenge back on track in Germany. The 11 times world champion narrowly qualified for the final. He claimed the 4th and last place after finishing 2 points ahead of Takehisa Fujinami of Japan. Lamkin came into his own on the 4-man final though, which was run in reverse order. As the first rider to tackle the 7 zones, the 26-year-old was at a definite disadvantage. But Lamkin rose above the challenge to set a score that his rivals could not come close to bettering. Reigning world champion Albert Kabastani led the way in the first lap of the competition. He was keen to build on his win in England, where he finished 1 point ahead of Lamkin. The Spaniard had to settle for a distant 2nd place in Germany, picking up 22 penalty points, 8 more than Lamkin. Spaniards Adam Raga and Marc Friescher had to be separated by a tiebreaker stage after both men finished level on 22 points. Raga, who won the first event of the season in Andorra, had finished 2 points behind Friescher in the first lap qualifier. Friescher would lose out on a podium place though, as Raga won the tiebreaker to take 3rd place, this tumble putting Friescher out of the running. Lamkin now leads the title on 54 points, 4 ahead of Raga and 7 ahead of Kabastani. The championship continues in Marseille in France. Finally, we go back to Italy and the Ferrari team skiing holiday, where Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello and test driver Luciano Berti would take part in a fun kart race on ice. Luciano's helmet is one we don't often see, and with spare cars now banned, he'll probably only get a race if the regular drivers were sidelined through illness or injury. Once the race started, Michael quickly reminded everyone why he's a 5 times world champion, and that his racing roots lay in karting. Berti has picked up a safety bag, which does him no favours where grip is limited at the best of times. If this stunt was an accident, Michael's recovery is awesome, and if it was deliberate, it was even more so. The finish seemed to mimic a contentious aspect of last season. Crossing the line together at the US Grand Prix had fans booing and team orders banned. This year, there's certainly going to be fireworks in Formula One, but Schumacher's in a winning mood. So, whether you're a new contender, brushing aside the competition, or content to race in the pack, make sure you catch next week's Drive.